Good day, and thank you for joining today's webinar entitled How Finance Leaders Must Pivot from Reactive to Proactive Planning. Today we're going to be covering off on some interesting topics I think most CFOs would find interesting. We're going to cover a little bit of the effects of COVID-19 on financial systems in general, and then we're going to get a look at the state of FP&A in 2020 and beyond. Then let's look a bit about this, the evolution of software in the finance industry, and then introduce what is corporate performance management software, get into a little bit of how it works. And then we're going to apply how it works into some of the things that are challenging us today about getting into frequent forecasting and the need to build scenario plans and stuff like that. So first off, a little bit about me. So I have to laugh. When I did the last webinar, some people were doing some research on me. And if you kind of Google Wayne Slater out there in the marketplace, I guess an interesting stat comes up where Wayne Slater actually was a character on The Simpsons who was the security guard at the nuclear power plant. And it was actually, the role was actually played by Kiefer Sutherland in a couple of episodes. And I got a lot of emails and things from friends back in the day. And then a few years later, just a couple years later, I actually met Kiefer Sutherland at a fundraising event, and we started chatting, and I joked about him playing me in The Simpsons, and we had a good laugh about that. But at the end of the day, who I really am is I'm the Wayne Slater, who's the actually director of product marketing at Prophix, not the Simpsons character. And a little bit about me. I work, again, at Prophix, and Prophix is a company that makes corporate performance management software. And this is basically software that streamlines FP&A processes like budgeting, planning, and reporting. And a bit about me, for more than 25 years, I've been helping organizations solve their product and business growth challenges. And during that time, I've helped a lot of companies optimize their efficiency and profitability challenges through the selection and implementation of business software solutions like enterprise resource management, otherwise known as ERP, corporate performance management, which we'll call CPM today, and then things like manufacturing execution systems. I've also published a couple of books, and prior to Prophix, I've worked for companies like CISPRO, IBM, Oracle, and Hummingbird. So before I jump into the content here, I always have to say there is actually a Dilbert for everything out there. So I thought, there's probably a Dilbert for the topic I'm going to address today. And sure enough, there was. I really, what I want to talk about is, this Dilbert is representative of bad planning processes in general. And I can tell you over the span of my career, especially when I was sitting at the senior leadership level, I've been part of a lot of bad budgeting and planning cycles. I don't need to give you any examples, but I can tell you that with the right people in place and the right processes, and then underpinned with the right technology, it doesn't need to be all bad, and your planning processes can actually be quite well. And then, for many of us, it's all about reclaiming our evenings and our weekends. So let's start diving into the nut of today's content here. So let's just talk about 2020. So it's been quite a year already, and geez, it's not even over yet. And I'm sure we're going to be telling our kids and our grandkids about this year for years. And I just was remembering back in January when many of us had wrapped up our FY 2020 plans, and as usual, there was a feeling of accomplishment and relief that the plans were baked, and now we were kind of moving forward basically into the year. And then who in their wildest dreams could have actually imagined that this thing was coming along? Basically by March and April, COVID became a real thing, and that's when the lockdowns occurred. And in finance, many of us were forced to throw away our budgets and forecasts we'd actually worked so hard on just a couple months earlier, and suddenly replan like we never had before. Now, we were all trying to plan in a world full of uncertainty and chaos, and that just makes things even more difficult. And of course, like always in finance, we simply didn't get the extra available time conveniently available to kind of tackle this thing. We always are running at 110% in finance, it seems like. And the buzzword I hear today all the time about people talking about what finance needs to do is agility. Finance needs to be more agile. We're going to talk a little bit about that more today. But given how all these things pull on finance, time, all the day-to-day jobs you've got to get done, and things like this, and now you've got the frequent replanning that's been kind of imposed on us by this COVID-19 pandemic. That all gets coupled with the added complexity that just the markets and the industries are no longer as simple or as predictable as they once were. So you want to talk about, our responsibilities getting even more complicated. 2020 has made it pretty complicated for all of us. And then not surprisingly, there's some interesting surveys out there. In the survey from the Association for Financial Professionals, basically the results indicated like 71% of respondents indicated that their revenue would be down for the year, of course, because of COVID. And then 27% expected revenue to be down over 31%. So that's pretty dramatic for those who had just, kind of settled on their plans earlier in the year. And then, 85% of respondents said they had expected earnings to be significantly or severely below plan due to the impact of the pandemic as well. So not only was revenue going to be down, earnings were going to be down significantly as well. So basically, revenue and earnings in 2020 have been stunted for most companies and in many cases shrunk. And then the same survey also asked finance professionals how long they initially thought the crisis from the pandemic would last. And you can see most respondents, actually 66% of them, expected it to last from at least 3 quarters, which is about where we are right now, to roughly through next year. Personally, I feel it'll be a bit longer until a vaccine is in kind of wide distribution and being, distributed. And also we've got the specter of the second wave, which we're actually going through right now, and it's still accelerating. So there may still be some additional lockdowns and measures in the near future, as we need to kind of safeguard against the impact of this pandemic until we get an accessible vaccine. And again, the experts right now are saying maybe around mid-2021, but it may be as late as 2022 at the earliest before things start to maybe turn around and feel a bit more normal. So therefore, the best assumption moving forward would be that creating financial and operating models is going to be critical to creating alignment across the enterprise. And us as FP&A professionals should be making numerous scenarios to understand actions, impacts, and also our options that are available to us. So if there's one thing that 2020 has taught us, is now is the time for finance to redefine its mission to kind of really achieve its long-stated goal of becoming a strategic partner with the rest of the organization. At the beginning of this year, it was pretty much business as usual as most organizations kicked off the year with their carefully crafted plans, and pretty much that they had worked on hard last year. And then by February, it was obvious the virus was a growing concern. And like I was saying earlier, by March, April, many of the plans we had built were no longer relevant, and many of our business futures were totally uncertain. So as we scrambled to triage our immediate cash flow and liquidity situations, there was also an immediate need to go back to the drawing board and plan faster for a variety of uncertain outcomes, like we'd never done so before. This only compounded the already busy day-to-day challenges and time constraints faced by many finance teams that I was actually mentioning earlier. Basically, planning that had already needed improving was tasked to do even more frequently, and faster. And then, like I was talking about earlier, the term agility is now becoming relevant, and it was suddenly needed yesterday. So you've heard probably software companies throw terms out like digital transformation. Though vague in description, one of the simplest ways to look at it is it could be simply getting your mission critical business applications into the cloud for better accessibility for our remote workers, as many of them now have to work from home, and making them be able to access the mission critical applications basically anywhere from any device. And this increased in importance, especially when the lockdowns occurred and really now drove many of our environments, even where I work, to almost a total remote workforce. The need to adopt highly collaborative and more frequent planning cycles to plan or react faster to rapidly changing markets was now more important than ever. And again, this usually includes processes like forecasting and scenario modeling, which we're going to dig into a bit deeper into this webinar. Also, we already knew we were spending too much time in spreadsheets, right? Not only were we just always experiencing that ourselves, the analysts out there have been saying, we do spend too much time in spreadsheets as well. And we sometimes call this Excel hell, but as COVID-19 and the trend of working remotely has occurred, this has actually only compounded the Excel issue. So if you think about it, like working remotely typically results in an increase of email communications, and collaboration is now happening via Zoom or WebEx tools. But when we were working in an office, Bob, who I may have needed an answer from, was just only 6 cubes away. I could just kind of walk over to Bob, ask him a question, and basically get the answer I needed. Now, in today's world, it might require a calendar booking in Bob's calendar, an exchange of emails, maybe a video call to get the answers required, and probably exchanging spreadsheets backwards and forwards to get the point or the numbers across. So, in certain cases, the agility we were seeking just had additional complexities and delays layered onto us. And this is why I'd like to talk to you a bit about a technology called corporate performance management. And I think, on my last slide, I was talking a little bit about spreadsheets. So, reducing the dependencies on spreadsheet planning has been a long-standing reason why corporate performance management software exists today. We can't escape the fact that spreadsheets are one of the most widely used tools in finance and are actually awesome for entering and manipulating numbers. Those spreadsheets, we love them, but we also love to hate them, right? More or less. However, though, there are certain situations where you should move beyond spreadsheets and look to something else. And here are some scenarios where using spreadsheets can lead to time-consuming and costly errors. The first is, if a spreadsheet gets extremely large, the data suggests that the typical spreadsheet contains, roughly about 4% of errors in its cells. So the average spreadsheet today, roughly about 4% of the detail in a spreadsheet could potentially contain errors. So the larger your spreadsheet is, the greater the chance it's not accurate. The second reason is they also lack the necessary security. Data needs to be hidden from certain individuals. And in the case of spreadsheets, they don't necessarily offer the greatest privacy of data or even for your calculations. So if you're in a private company and you want your revenue numbers, profitability, or more importantly, your payroll numbers not to be viewable by anyone or certain people, this is kind of an important feature. Another point as well is if you believe you'll have to enlarge the current model you're working with or your database significantly, or make it available to a great number of other people, as your company grows, so do the complexities of your spreadsheets. Scalability is tricky. And it's not easy to enlarge a database of 2,000 items to a database of over 200,000 and do it accurately and in really any reasonable time frame. Or even open a 50 megabyte spreadsheet loaded with macros. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those, but they're actually frightening. And then the point number 4 is really, you have a large number of contributors into your financial processes. So you need to quickly and accurately collect data from a large group of contributors. These could be people like outside of finance, like your sales leaders, your marketing leaders, operations, product team, things like that. But the only way to get their input is by basically sending them the spreadsheet to basically fill in, and then they send it back to you so they can contribute to the budget numbers. Then it's kind of left up to finance to roll everything up. And this is a major reason why the budgeting and planning processes typically take so long and requires so much rework. And then, the last point is just planning on spreadsheets is simply taking too much time. We all live this one day to day in our lives. So I don't really need to elaborate on it too much more, but every time I just even go upstairs and look at my wife, she works for a bank, there's a spreadsheet in front of her, and they're all consuming. An additional data point here is, from an analyst called Rob Kugel, and he's an analyst with Ventana Research, and they recently published a video blog on the future of FP&A. It was entitled "Updating FP&A's Mission: A New Approach for 2020." And Entity outlines his perspective on how FP&A can redefine its mission to achieve, again, its long-stated goal of becoming a strategic partner. I was kind of saying that earlier, with the rest of the organization. And these key points involved, fully adopting, integrated business planning, a higher level of participation in the planning process, making it more collaborative, action-orientated approach to planning, and building, really what you need to do is start building in frequent short planning sprints. So these short planning cycles enable companies to achieve greater agility, that word again, in responding to market or competitive challenges. And in the face of a very uncertain future, companies have been discovering that the value of rapid planning and budgeting is actually paying off. So I think what this slide is basically saying here is that 2/3 of companies that use dedicated planning and budgeting, aka like corporate performance management software, say their processes work very well, versus 36% of companies using spreadsheets. So really what you're looking at is is companies that are much happier. There's a large number of companies that are much happier, much more efficient in planning when it comes to using a dedicated tool like CPM versus spreadsheets alone. And when companies go looking for a CPM solution, they most likely are looking to address their budgeting and forecasting and reporting challenges. However, because of the data integration and rich reporting capabilities of CPM software, additional requirements prospects are looking for also include faster, more accurate budgeting and planning, improved financial reporting analytics, building financial models, and all of this is providing users visually appealing dashboards on financial performance, almost like a quick snapshot of how you're doing. And some also want their CPM software solutions to help them consolidate and close the books as well. And this is all stuff that corporate performance management software can help you with. And since the onset of COVID-19, more than half of the respondents to a research project conducted by the Modern Finance Forum found COVID-19 has increased the urgency of their investment in automation software like corporate performance management. The renewed urgency to invest will result in CFOs wanting to make up for lost time and act fast, especially given 2021, in all honesty, could be just as uncertain as 2020. And then the same research also indicated that the automation gap is also quite large, with 90% of organizations still a long way from fully automating their financial processes. And processes that are looking to be automated by CPM software, such as budgeting, planning, and reporting, and close, were of particular urgency to the respondents as well. So those who had already automated through digital transformation with solutions like CPS are actually far less likely to have experienced disruption to any of their financial processes. Also, these organizations were clearly the most agile and quick to respond to the changing economic situations. So those that have invested in digital transformation right now, it's proving that they're outperforming those that haven't by a long distance. And those that invest now could still use the added agility to leapfrog the rest of the competition. And that was some really interesting research to consume for me. So let's talk a little about the latest technology and now how finance leaders can use it to develop and redefine plans that will help during these uncertain times. All right, I think before we can examine the trends today, it might be useful to revisit how we got to where we currently are. So let's look back, shall we? Ever since we've needed to crunch numbers, we've turned to technology to help them make this task a lot easier and faster. While I'm not old enough to have used like an abacus in school, I do remember the introduction of the calculator into schools and businesses to help accelerate with basic math. And I've also witnessed paper-based ledgers get replaced by electronic spreadsheets. So depending on how old you are, you may not know that Microsoft Excel wasn't always the dominant spreadsheet. Before that, the world ran on something called Lotus 1-2-3. And even before that, the first killer application was called VisiCalc. That was the first commercially successful spreadsheet. It was released on the old Apple II computer sometime around like 1979. But since their inception, Although they are amazing tools, once things scale or get complicated, it was quickly being realized by spreadsheet users that using spreadsheets alone can become quite manual and time-consuming, which kind of led to the creation of accounting software packages that ran on PCs. So some might remember like Quicken from 1983, followed by like QuickBooks. And then there was, those kind of evolved into the modern ERP systems we see today. And these ERP systems are big, monolithic systems of record now, and include companies like SAP, Sage, NetSuite, Syspro, and more. And then to aid with business planning, business intelligence software, otherwise known as BI software, came out to help companies determine their business goals. And then similarly, corporate performance management software, again known as CPM, came out to help companies to budget, plan, and report faster while helping these companies achieve their business goals. So this is just an amazing evolution of software that's occurred in just the past 40 years and has already transformed the Office of Finance today. So let's talk a bit about these popular software solutions that are available today to help finance work more efficiently. Sometimes there is confusion as to when to use what. So for example, like ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning Software, refers to a type of software that organizations use to manage their day-to-day business activities, such as accounting, procurement, project management, risk management, and compliance, and even supply chain operations. That's a big application. This is your key business application, and you need it. It contains much of the data you need to help with your planning, the GL, and generate the much needed reports. But by itself, it's not an efficient financial planning platform like CPM is, as most of the planning exercise is exported to spreadsheets, and the process becomes quite labor intensive and time consuming. Then there are the more advanced reporting software solutions you can add to ERP solutions that are designed to give greater flexibility to analyze and visualize the ERP data. Included in this category is also something called business intelligence. And companies use the results of their analysis in BI software to help them determine their company goals. Generating reports, data visualizations, and management are where the similarities between BI and CPM stop. So there has been sometimes some confusion between BI software and CPM software. Again, because they all generate reports, they all provide rich visuals of the data, and also can actually help report on the information. But there are some crucial differences between the two that I should make it easy and straightforward for you to understand. So again, CPM is a purpose-built solution to facilitate the financial planning process, where BI is software that helps companies determine its goals. So CPM is designed to be the tool that monitors your progress to help keep you on track to achieving your goals. And CPM integrates with all your existing accounting software or your ERP systems and streamlines the planning process while providing the reporting to keep your company on track towards its goals. A good example of this would you would typically not be able to do eliminations, currency conversions, or planning in a BI tool as quickly as you could in a purpose-built tool like CPM. So let's dig deeper into corporate performance management now. So what does it all do and how does it work? So whether you are budgeting, forecasting, reporting, or closing, each one of these processes requires time, accuracy, and collaboration with other departments and lines of businesses. The goal of corporate performance management software is to shave time out of each process, which make those processes more effective. So let's get a little bit more specific here, is, what is corporate performance management software in a very specific sense? Well, it's purpose-built budgeting and planning software. CPM software involves the process efficiency, it improves your process efficiency, and it does so using workflows and automation. You automate the repetitive tasks, and the workflows help map the processes and drive collaboration to basically speed up your planning process. And then you've got powerful reporting tools and analytics that enable you to drill into data and distribute the results in order to make better business decisions and make them faster. In this example on the screen is basically a map of the solutions that the company Prophix, the company that I work for, a corporate performance management vendor, could facilitate for you. While other vendors might differ slightly in their capabilities, most are designed to really improve the budgeting and planning. So how does it actually work? So to start off, you typically have multiple data sources, such as your accounting software or ERP systems. You can also have CRM systems that are in sales and HR and payroll systems as well. And you have multiple departments, and currently most of the exchange of data is being facilitated manually, and again, quite often through spreadsheets. And again, we talk a lot about spreadsheets. They're awesome tools for analyzing and manipulating data, but they also come with their own inherent challenges like versioning. What if someone accidentally deletes important data or modifies a formula, or even, just simply tracking down the owner of the spreadsheet to get their feedback can be time consuming. And then with the increasing amounts of data from various systems being outputted to and managed by those spreadsheets, getting to the bottom of an issue can be frustrating, time consuming, and sometimes, because we do this, can cause you to work nights and weekends. So, CPM solutions in general remove the complexity of the data integration with your different business systems and brings all of your financial data into a single unified cloud-based solution, meaning all of the key financial data you want to work with is now available in one system. And unlike trying to manage all those different spreadsheets and their multiple versions across many lines of businesses, CPM centralizes your data and basically enabling you to collect, analyze, and drill into, and then report on all of your financial data from a single platform. It really becomes your single view of your financial truth. Now let's look at using CPM from a user's perspective. So here's an example of how you would use CPM as let's just say you were a controller. So to start, most but not all CPM tools provide intuitive dashboards designed for specific roles in the company. So your dashboard only displays data relevant to you, so they're highly personalizable depending on who you are and as a user. And then dashboards are the starting point for most CPM users. We typically encourage all of our CPM users to start here. And why? Because your CPM dashboard would contain your key performance indicators, in those rich visuals that you can see on the screen there, and charts and graphs. But also there's favorites and there's tasks. Let's talk specifically about tasks. So in my tasks section, you will note in the red circle, there is a task assigned to me that I'm needed to do to complete my part of the OPEX planning. So if I click on that OPEX planning task, that will actually kick it off for me. But how does that actually work? That task is assigned to me as part of a workflow. So remember earlier we talked about CPM being a tool to drive collaboration and process. So here's an example of a workflow that contains OPEX budget as part of the process it needs completing. If part of the process is assigned to me, it shows up in my dashboard that you just saw earlier telling me I need to do it. And this is a great indicator also of where we might be in the planning process and how much is left to do in the process as well. So moving forward, when I imagine I was back on my dashboard and I clicked the OPEX planning task, it's going to open this screen here. So in this particular case, it's the CPM tool. It might look like a spreadsheet and it may act like a spreadsheet, but believe me, it's no spreadsheet. Here is where you and your teammates can interact with the budgeting models in real time. All changes appear immediately, and there's also versioning in case you need to fall back to a prior version. And these start at the departmental or regional level and can basically roll right up to a master enterprise budget. All of the numbers can be drilled into for further analysis or refinement. So there's no wasting time opening, rolling up, and digging through different versions of spreadsheets. All the information is right here at your fingertips in the CPM tool. Just a quick stat here, more relevant to today's challenges. Let's touch a bit on forecasting. So this data on forecast. This is data on forecasting frequency. It's actually this is basically research that was done pre-COVID, but more than ever, forecasting, and more specifically, frequent forecasting like rolling forecasts, are absolutely essential today. And before COVID, the reasons why organizations were not forecasting as frequently as they should were 43% of respondents saying it wasn't a requirement for their organization. So, I know that has changed a lot over the past, 7-8 months. And also, let's say 25% say it's actually due to company culture, while others were saying they were held back by technology. So this is interesting. So there was a good chunk of people that were held back by technology, that felt that it was just too difficult to do, too time consuming, so they simply didn't do it. And that's a shame, because now it's something that needs to get done quite frequently today. So let's take a look at forecasting in a CPM tool. So like I mentioned earlier, a growing trend today is to increase the accuracy of forecasting. And in order to be more accurate, you need to do it more frequently. But again, it takes typically a lot of time to do this. And some examples of frequent forecasting, if you go out there and Google them, are like things like rolling forecasts, moving forecasts, and real-time forecasting. But to really kind of best deal with these ever-changing times today, rolling forecasts appear to have grown in popularity, and it has kind of become the common practice of finance professionals today. And rolling forecasts is really, the practice of continuously planning and projecting financial outcomes for a given period of time, while assimilating the new information as it appears. And so, if rolling forecasts are updated as actual performance evolves over time, it actually provides new insights and possibilities for management. So for example, they enable prediction of whether adjustments must be made to the plan, as well as advance warning of the need to reduce or increase expenditures, or just simply meet budgetary limits, or in certain cases, even capitalize on opportunities. So if you were, let's use an analogy here. If you were a grocery store, or maybe a video conferencing vendor, or even a toilet paper manufacturer, last January, could you have ever predicted the explosive growth that would have occurred in your business just a few months later? No, you probably didn't actually anticipate that happening at all, right? So one of the biggest challenges to rolling forecasts is that it can cost you a lot of time and subsequently money if you don't have the right tools and efficient or automated processes in place to do it properly. So again, given recent events, many organizations have had to transition from traditional forecasting to more frequent forecasting. And they do this by leveraging the newfound convenience and time savings that CPM software can provide. So let's look into the example on the screen here. In our revenue forecast, you will see that Q1 and Q2 are already complete as the forecasting goes. What has basically happened is the CPM tool has already pulled our actuals into the report from our ERP system. In addition, it has already pulled our planning numbers that were also in our CPM system as well. So it's gone and pulled, when you think about it, our actuals, and it's actually gone and pulled our planning numbers automatically. So this is already saving a lot of time, and the data is 100% accurate. The yellow represents our new forecast estimates for us to work with over the next 12 months. We're looking about 12 months forward in this forecast here. And knowing that our revenue expectations are going to be going basically trending down, or maybe in some cases, again, like I talked about, certain organizations are basically seeing explosive growth, we can look forward and modify the revenue expectations and basically based on the latest information we have available at any given time. And then the remaining months can be easily manipulated using existing data in the system, or manipulated manually, similarly doing this in spreadsheets via data entry, or maybe you're leveraging formulas and things like that. The good news is that now all of this is now in the system to quickly leverage when needed. And then now organizations can use this capability to revisit their forecasts and play out any number of what-if scenarios in basically a minimal amount of time in order to minimize their future risk. So those of you who have heard of scenario planning, it's actually really evolved into something that you should be doing almost regularly now. But really, scenario planning is a form of planning that leverages what you don't know to bring multiple hypothetical features into view. So it's almost like a way of modeling things and taking a look at future states to see if you could actually survive that state or not, and what you would possibly need to do to right-size your business in that state. So, scenario planning allows you to do several things. First off, is really gain insight into the key drivers of a situation. And then secondly, embrace and control uncertainty. And then third, kind of recognize the assumptions your organization has been making to expose your, I hate to say it, your false sense of security. And, if this sounds uncomfortable, good, because scenario planning isn't new. It's actually newly relevant in this current age of coronavirus and beyond. I think it's going to become the new normal for most businesses, actually. And scenario planning is an invaluable tool if you're trying to determine what the future might look like for your business. And then while the coronavirus has ramped up our understanding of uncertainty to the extreme, companies will always grapple with blind spots and unknowns. So again, these 5 easy steps, you can take them to prepare your business for the unknowns kind of from today and then beyond the pandemic. So again, first point, identify the trends affecting your business. What are the major factors affecting how your business functions and how your customers are making decisions? Just consider that. And then secondly, what you need to do is separate what you know from what you don't know and identify the assumptions you're making and expose your major blind spots. And, interviewing, a good practice here is interviewing key stakeholders to uncover how they envision the future of the business might help expose where some of these assumptions lie. And then point number 3, map it out. At this point, you likely have a long list of trends and assumptions and unknowns. Now it's time to prioritize. Identify the trends that are highly uncertain and most impactful. The most straightforward scenario grids look at a crossing of 2 major trends. So for example, a bank might think about the increasing use of digital channels and the different approaches to win customer loyalty. That's just one example for a bank there. 4th point, don't ignore the worst case scenario. The point of scenario planning is to identify all possible outcomes, even if they are less than ideal. Don't focus on the likable, focus on the likely. So forcing yourself to make difficult decisions, confront uncomfortable realities, and look at situations realistically might result in mapping out a scenario that you hate, but it will help you prepare for the worst case and allow you to basically mitigate its effects ahead of time. And then the 5th point, keep adapting. Effective scenario planning requires flexibility. One of the major benefits of the strategy is that it allows you to see how a single idea might play out across multiple hypothetical features. So you can use this tool as a way to change, as a way to develop ideas and really ideas that will win even when unexpected changes occur. But you'll need to continue to adapt your plans with changing trends as they occur. And that means you'll be looking to keep building as many scenarios that make sense as your new data arrives. So that sounds like a lot of work. And, while doing it manually in spreadsheets absolutely is a lot of work. But again, CPM can help. Let's talk a little bit about that now. So actually doing scenario planning is where CPM software shines. It's an absolutely brilliant tool for doing this. So let's think about this. It's always great to plan for a rainy day, but most financial departments simply don't have the time and the resources given the complexity and the time associated with the manual planning processes we talked about earlier. So CPM easily facilitates scenario building by enabling quick and easy alternative models to be built from existing budgets and forecasts. And since your prior forecasts are live, available, and fully integrated with your financial systems, CPM is a tool that gives you the ability to model any endless array of possible scenarios based on changes in revenue, costs, personnel, and much more in a very small window of time. I can literally build a new scenario in this software in just minutes. And in the example on the screen we're looking at now, our existing budget is being represented in blue and being compared with 2 scenarios in green. And, and in those scenarios, there are different costs and asset situations that are showing their effects on net income, assets, and liabilities. It's easy to keep modeling more scenarios by just adjusting your assumptions and easily, and from changing those assumptions, easily view the impact it has on your business. And then scenario planning helps you understand your financial readiness to successfully navigate through those dramatic changes in the market. And then by having those plans ready, they basically reduce your time to react and help keep you staying ahead of changing market conditions and hopefully maybe you're even your competition. So if you're currently doing this with spreadsheets alone, I think you already understand the complexity behind this and the associated time or sometimes the required expertise it really takes to model any number of potential outcomes that you really should. But today, having a level of readiness and preparedness for various market turns is a major step in ensuring your business continuity during these uncertain times. And this is where finance can add some real data or sort of real kind of data-driven strategic value to the organization. And this is where CPM software truly shows its value. It's purpose-built to do this, and no other tool will facilitate this type of rapid planning, faster or more easily. Now let's talk a little bit about where, we've talked about where software has come from, we've talked a little bit about what CPM provides today. Let's maybe talk a little bit about the future. Well, actually, it's not even the future, it's actually today. And it's no secret that a lot of CPM vendors are looking to push the envelope of efficiency even further by further automating your financial processes and providing deeper and more meaningful insights using artificial intelligence, otherwise known as AI. So, these improved efficiencies come from new technology powered by things such as natural language and AI machine learning. We have software right now in Prophix specifically, where there's stuff called Task Assistant, and Task Assistant is like your voice-enabled communications assistant. So you're familiar with like your Siri or Alexas today. So Task Assistant kind of lets you know, what's on your plate, like what tasks you have to do today. Or it also lets you, schedule a process like running a sales report, a forecast, or even distribute reports to the team, really just by asking Prophix in a sense. So this is your verbal way of asking. And then also there's other AI capabilities, something called Insights. And this uses the power of natural language processing. And Insights examines, multiple data points, applies analytics, and uncovers meaningful insights and trends in key aspects of your data. So, and how Insights works, it delivers a consistent narrative, such as explaining a variance in a contribution analysis, for example, to ensure all stakeholders are informed and on the same page. And then another tool that's being leveraged as well is something called anomaly detection. And anomaly detection uses machine learning to allow you to reach new levels of efficiency by quickly surfacing anomalies and risk hiding in your transactions. And it does so with the speed and accuracy, that no human could ever achieve. And this is used right now to speed up processes like internal audits, account reconciliations, and financial close. And it does so with greater confidence. So when you look at this, all of this AI technology is designed to help automate repetitive tasks and provide deep analysis quickly, really to help save you and I even more time and really freeing us up, giving us bigger windows of free time to focus on more strategic work. And then when we look at the more strategic work, that's the strategic work like scenario planning and frequent forecasting that we need to be doing in these trying times and actually adding value to our C-suite by providing this information. So if you like what I just showed you, and you decide a CPM solution maybe in your future, here are some of the benefits existing CPM customers state they receive from their CPM systems. You can see the number one benefit they experience is much better reporting and analysis. And I think there were 74% respondents that did that. And then they like the easier access to their financial information. And then 65% cite shorter planning cycles. Now, this is key, especially today. Remember, we were talking about how you need to be planning faster and better than ever before. And then really beyond that, really CPM software, remember this, it becomes a single view of your financial truth, kind of enabling all of these processes to be done quickly and actually much more easily, actually. And then other benefits of CPM also include just reduced errors. Don't you hate it when someone messes up a formula or a decimal place in a spreadsheet? That happens. That's hard to do in a corporate performance management solution. And then also, being able to forecast with greater velocity and accuracy. And then, a lot of other respondents have responded that basically their budgets are much more usable. I think that's because they're a lot more accurate and on point. And then, the last piece they're citing is make better business decisions. If you've got better data, it's accurate, and you're getting access to the information you need faster, you're going to make better business decisions, and you're going to be able to make them faster, which actually goes back to that whole point of being agile, right? So now we've become an agile finance department leveraging a tool like CPM. So in summary, what CPM is, it's a solution that will help you, increase the volume of scenario iterations in these days. And then it also increases the speed in which these scenario iterations can be done. And again, like I was saying earlier, this results in better business decisions being made faster and with less risk. And wait, there's one more thing. If the benefits that I just spoke about aren't already strong enough, there's also an associated ROI that goes along with basically CPM software. In a recent report from a company called Nucleus Research, it was found that in aggregate, companies recouped about $3.18 in benefits per $1 invested in CPM software. And this was over a 3-year span. So that means an investment in CPM not only provides, it basically provides a rapid return on investment over 3 years. And the respondents cited the primary value drivers of this were visibility that they had. And the research also found that companies that generate in about $100 million in annual revenue often see cost savings of over $200,000 every year. So basically, at the end of the day, what we like to say in CPM is there's not only a top line benefit, there's also a bottom line benefit as well. So it seems like just a logical investment. So, kind of wrapping up on the top line and bottom line benefits, I think that basically concludes what I wanted to talk to you about today. I hope I really appreciate the time. I really hope you enjoyed today's content. I know I enjoyed presenting it to you. If you saw anything today that piqued your interest, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And the best way is simply email info@prophix.com. And on that note, I want to wish everyone a terrific holiday season, and thanks for joining us today. Thank you very much.